And we are immediately back. For me, not for you. It's been like a week. So, hello. This week I'm talking about The Heart of It All by Justin Porter. As I said in my little outro last week, I did previously review this for the Left Hand Valley Courier, but you know, I like to share my books with all of the people that are interested, so here we are. So, The Heart of It All was recommended to me by Inkberry Books, and I've said it before, I will say it again. I love that they recommend books to me that I wouldn't normally choose for myself. So, the other kind of cool thing about this book, you can see the shiny little sticker. It won an independent publisher book award for excellence in independent publishing. And, you know, I can kind of see why. So, we first meet John Ritter as he is moving back home to Cincinnati, or Cincinasty, as he calls it, because his grandmother, who, and we'll get to this in a second, was a famous children's book illustrator, it sounds like, more than author. Anyway, she's in her silver years, or however you want to call it, and she has Alzheimer's, and it's really, really difficult for what's left of her family, because, so, John's parents have both died. His aunt is kind of one of those people who is tired of taking care of her elderly mother and wants to put her in a home. And then John's cousin is just kind of like there. She seems like a nice character, but she doesn't really do a whole lot. She does get mad at John kind of near the end of the book. That's like a whole other thing. As far as the grandma goes, she's just very like understanding, and it just kind of seems to be like trying to minimize the high tensions as much as possible. So, Cincinasty is difficult for John, not just because he's kind of taken it upon himself to take care of his grandmother, but also because it's where he grew up, and he has a lot of mixed feelings there. He seems just kind of generally unhappy with life. So, some of those negative things, he's hung up on his girlfriend from yesteryear. I'm not entirely sure when they started dating. It sounded like it was kind of like a high school, maybe early college relationship. He's pushing 30 when we meet him in this book, so it's been a minute. So he's hung up on that. His best friend who's still in town is kind of a pothead who doesn't really do a whole lot. He's a pizza delivery guy. So I can't tell if John thinks that he's better than his friend or kind of what their deal is. But they seem to have a reasonably good relationship. John realizes that because he's back in town and because he's taking care of someone, he actually needs money. So he goes back to these people who hired him in the past, and he's working as a landscaper, and it sounds shady, to say the least. The guy just does not sound like a very good businessman. He just has a lot on his plate, and going to the whole kind of dissatisfied with life and the world thing, he seems kind of radical. And they actually kind of joke about it at one point, because to go back to the conversation of is he better than his friend, with very heavy sarcastic quotation marks, they decide to go vandalize billboards. And John is doing all of these somewhat witty boards saying how taking whatever the board is actually advertising and basically flipping it this thing is really cool, but you're killing the earth, or this other thing. And I don't know, I'm really struggling to think of solid examples, because they're kind of just peppered throughout the book. Meanwhile, his buddy is just boobs or something really juvenile on the boards, and John's no, come on man, you gotta make them think. And he's oh, because you're so deep with your activism, vandalism, oh hush you. And then he really starts to think like, am I actually making any difference? Am I challenging anyone's thoughts? And I guess in a way that's kind of what the whole book is John challenging his own thoughts, because everybody tells him that his ex was essentially no good and he's just still kind of obsessing over her. At one point he sees her and he like kind of goes off the deep end and is like, I have to talk to her. Doesn't go how you think. Yeah, he seems like he's having a hot mess. It's kind of midlife crisis-y. It's kind of coming of age, but he's already grown up, because like at the end he does grow up to a degree, and I think a large part of why he grows up is because he has to take care of his grandmother. Now, everybody thought that it was mostly his grandfather who wrote and illustrated the books, but it becomes pretty clear that his grandma was actually more involved than pretty much anybody thought. And it kind of inspires him, especially when he realizes that he's not going to be able to be as hands-on as he wants to be, that he can kind of find his own way. He can kind of find his own mischief, if you will, because all of the books are about these mischief little pixies and all of the trouble they get into. And it's also kind of funny because with his grandmother having Alzheimer's, he takes her to daycare, and it's really funny because he says that with Alzheimer's patients it's great because they don't treat you any differently. And so he actually like finds a lot of solace and a lot of comfort with all these older people who are losing their memories. And so I think in a really weird roundabout way, it kind of gives him that, yeah, the world sucks, but maybe it doesn't suck as much as you think it does feeling. And so it kind of calms him down and it allows him to grow, which was very much needed. I finished the book pretty quickly because, well, it's interesting. I wanted to know, is he gonna ever run into the girlfriend? If so, is he gonna realize that like she's not everything like how he remembered her? I wanted to know if the aunt was gonna succeed in putting her mom into a home. I wanted to know, like, is the shady businessman ever going to like stop being shady, kind of ish? Is John ever going to grow up? And it takes a lot of effort, but he does. So I did like the book. I thank Inkberry Books for recommending it to me. I think if you like realistic fiction, this is something worth checking out. There are kind of some like minor little like red flags, I guess, in the sense that there is some swearing, so if you're sensitive to that. Also, he like has kind of this weird lustful, not quite obsession, but he's like really into the lady who runs the Alzheimer's daycare, so he like definitely thinks about them together in kind of weird ways that I don't really know if they added to the story. So if you're sensitive to that, heads up, that happens a couple of times. I do wish that that would have gone somewhere, not in like just the lustful physical way that John wanted, but in the fact that like he very clearly needed to move on from his ex-girlfriend. And I'm not saying that like the way to move on is a new relationship, but I think it would have provided for a really interesting way to show some more character growth. Other than that, I can't really think of too many other reasons why you might not like the book, because it is really interesting and I was very pleasantly surprised. So that's all I have for the heart of it all. Next week I'll be reviewing Nora McInerney's Bad Vibes Only and Other Things I Bring to the Table. It's a collection of essays. I'm pretty sure, yes, it comes out in October of this year, so you're going to get a special sneak peek, and thank you to the Wandering Jellyfish for providing me with an advanced reader copy so that I could share some of these thoughts with you. In the meantime, happy reading and thanks.